There we go. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Snyder, and welcome to Sunday morning online coffee and conversation with the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley in Lafayette, Colorado. The Centers for Spiritual Living is an organization that teaches that each of us is a divine being, that what we think and what we say matters, and that you can change your life by changing what you think and what you say. Our vision and our passion is inspiring and uplifting every one of us to transform the world. So now we start each of these talks with a type of prayer that we call affirmative prayer. And this type of prayer is not about beseeching to an outside God, but reaching in to our own divinity within and letting that come forth. It's about inviting that forward, declaring the truth of who we are and what this day will be. And today's prayer is going to be Jim.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes, as we start this service today, let's go within and unite with the one mind, the one source, the original cause. We want to be open and relaxed into this message that we will receive, that will open our hearts and let us see our true selves. We want to be so grateful for our opportunity to share and to be together in this one mind. I know that this is so. I know that our true natures will join and become a universal whole. For this, we know, and we are what we are. I'm not getting it. Thank you very much. And as we end this prayer, we say together, and so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you, Jim. Now, our speaker today is Reverend Alexandra Musser in Northern Arizona. She's just graduated with her master's in consciousness studies from the Holm Institute and School of Spiritual Leadership. Her focus as a new minister is to offer science of mind as the same metaphysical philosophy and spiritual psychology that Ernest Holmes intended it to be, not as a religious movement, but as a spiritual approach to positive living, where spiritual laws meet and mix with the laws of science to reveal a greater universal truth, where humanity is one with the creative spirit and all of creation. Awesome. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, Rev Alex.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me back. It's wonderful to be back with you here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Move this little thing up. There we go. How does that look on your end?
It looks good. I can see it.
Okay. So there's nothing else but me and the presentation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. So my talk today is on peace. We have been following the idea of peace within Centers for Spiritual Living, and I added to it divine activism. Okay. Embracing peace on earth and divine activism. I'm going to start by telling you a little story that maybe will just resonate with some of us today. So in the African prairies, there was a tiger and there was a donkey, and they were having an argument. And they were having an argument about the color of the grass of all possible things. So the donkey insisted that the grass was blue. And the tiger said, no, the grass is green. Can't you certainly see that the grass is green? And Tiger was, no, the grass is blue. And they go through it over and over and over till finally, Donkey says, okay, we're going to go see the supreme judge, the lion. And the judge, the king of all of us, will make a decision. So they do go over to the king, the supreme judge, the lion, and they just plead their case. Is the grass blue? Is the grass green? And the donkey sums up by saying, well, surely you can see that the grass is blue, and I want you to punish Tiger for not agreeing. So the lion says, very well, Tiger, you are punished. You may not speak to anybody for the next week. You shall be silenced to think about your actions. So Donkey goes skipping along, going, yeah, I'm right. I knew it. The grass was blue. And the tiger is left staring at the lion and saying, why did you do that? Don't you know that the grass is green? We can all agree that the grass is green. And the lion said, you are one of the most intelligent, amazing beings in our world. And yes, the grass is green. And what do? You get into an argument with an ass about it. You carry on and on and on when he's not going to agree. And you come and you waste my time with the stupid argument. That's why you were punished. And so I think this is very appropriate when we're talking about peace, and maybe even it resonates a little bit with some of the times we'll live in, although I don't mean to suggest that whoever disagrees with us is an ass. But some things, are really, really obvious to some of us. And yet we go to war over these things instead of finding other means of making our point and becoming more collaborative. I would like to ask you if you can see this poem that I have up on the screen. Can you see it enough to read it?
It's pretty small.
Let me
It's
see if I can make
tiny.
it bigger. I'll make it bigger because I was hoping that we would read it all together. And if you don't want to unmute yourself, that's just fine. But I want to create a consciousness of oneness and peace, which is why I wanted to do this. Can we see this now?
Yes, that is great.
Okay, let's begin. Be the peace. True peace is not the silence of strife, but the presence of justice in our life. More than just absence of conflict or war, it's harmony, love, and so much more. More than just absence of conflict of war, it's harmony, love, and so much more. True peace is not merely the absence of tension. It's the presence of justice, said Martin Luther King with conviction. In every heart, in every land, let justice and love go hand in hand. In every heart, in every land, let justice and love go hand in hand. Peace is a state of mind and heart we all can achieve. Ernest Holmes whispered, asking us to believe. In quiet moments, let love abound, where peace within is where it's found. In quiet moments, let love abound, where peace within is where it's found. Be the peace you wish to see, is Gandhi's call, a gentle reminder for us all. To heal the world, we must first begin by nurturing the peace that lies within. To heal the world, we must first begin by nurturing the peace that lies within. Peace is not just the distant goal we seek, but the path we tread, strong, loving, yet meek. Peace is not just the distant goal we seek, but the path we tread, strong, loving, and meek. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a song that you're all familiar with. And it's about 3 minutes. And during this period of time, I'm going to lead you into a guided meditation about peace, inner peace. And if you do have paper and pencil or a pen available, Jot down some of the images that will come to you during this meditation, because I will ask you when I call to action at the end to work those into your morning practice or whatever spiritual practice it is that you enjoy. So as we sit back and listen to this beautiful song, I want you to think about what peace really means to you. Is it a state of mind? Is it a state of beingness? Is it action? Is it a knowing that the grass is green, whether or not anybody agrees with you, and that we do not need to be right for the grass to be green? I invite you now to think of the hot points of the world and send love, send peace, send understanding. You know, a kindergarten teacher sees two little kids fighting, and there is no right or wrong. And a wise teacher will not send them to their corners, but will find some way for them to make peace with one another. In some ways, we are like kindergarten teachers when it comes to peace. Not to belittle anyone, but to see the wholeness, the full adult, radiant, divine potential in those little kids that are having an argument over a toy or something else. And so I invite you now to take a moment of silence, if you will, to wrap up these thoughts and to see within yourself how you can become that change for good. I appear to have lost my presentation, for which I apologize, but I'll bring it right back up. So that song, the peace song, I'll just continue without the, can you see me okay? All right. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you
Good.
okay.
All right. Perfect. So I'll continue. The peace song is a song that was written by a woman by the name of Jill Jackson Miller. And she lived between 1913 and April 1995. That's quite a period of time. She was one of 5 children, and their parents died, and they were raised in foster homes, and they were very poor. And she and her sisters loved watching movies wherever they could. And she had this dream of becoming an actress. And when she turned 18, she actually went to Hollywood and she became an actress. She was recognized. She did some movies. She was well recognized and she was living her bliss. And she met a director producer who was from Germany fell in love, married him, and he forbade her from continuing to act, which was her love and her passion. So out of this desperation, what she did is she attempted to take her own life. And actually, she was very nearly successful at it. She wound up in the hospital and she was brought back to this life. She continued in extreme depression. And she met another man in Hollywood who was a composer musician. And they fell in love, and he encouraged her to help him compose songs and to write the lyrics. And she wrote the lyrics to Let There Be Peace on Earth, which became what we would call in today's world viral. And she took the rest of her life not only to continue to work on lyrics and the songs with him, and she had a nice family. She had 2 daughters that she raised, but she took the rest of her life to go and speak on the subject of peace. She became a very well-known public speaker on peace, with knowing that what healed her and what made her come to the realization that it didn't matter whether she acted or this or that or the other was the inner peace, knowing by herself who and whose she is. Now, Ernest Holmes, who is obviously the founder of our movement, he has left us with a few thoughts about peace. Number 1, he said that peace is unity with the divine. He emphasized that there is only one indestructible, absolute, self-existent cause, which he referred to as God or the living spirit almighty. He believed that this one manifests itself through and through all creatures, but is not absorbed by its creation. So therefore, where does peace live? Peace lives within us. He believed in the interconnectedness of all life. Holmes taught that all individuals are interconnected through this universal mind. And he stated, there is one mind common to all men, humans, human beings, people, we would say now. We're changing the language to be more inclusive. This idea suggests that we are all a part of a greater whole and that our thoughts and actions are interconnected. And lastly, he spoke about our collective consciousness. And we know that this goes back to the Carl Jung's collective unconscious, that there is an underpinning of universal beliefs back of all of us that is based on everything that has ever happened in this universe to all living beings. And what he said of the power of collective consciousness is that the power of collective consciousness and the impact of our thoughts on the world are that I am one with all people. I affirm that there is a silent power flowing through me and through them, which blesses and heals and prospers and makes happy and glad their pathways. So if we know that to be true, then why is it that we are tolerant of living in the world in which we live? Because Centers for Spiritual Living has been very, very vocal, not only on the topic of peace, but on social activism, peaceful social activism. And we're going to take the rest of this talk to look at some of the people that have stepped out in faith and to see how we can each be a stand for peace. The Dalai Lama advocates for universal humanitarian and compassion. He says that we are pillars of the world's peace, that the whole world religions support peace, and that individuals have a responsibility to contribute to a more compassionate and just society. A responsibility. And I'm going to bring Islam into this because we do know right now that there are things happening in the world under the banner of Islam that is destructive, but it is not the truth of the teaching. Islam places a strong emphasis on peace, as reflected in the greeting Al-Salam alaikum, which means peace be unto you. The Quran encourages reconciliation and peaceful coexistence among people. And it states if two parties of the believers fall into fighting, then make peace between them. And that is the responsibility of the community. And I think that we need to be bold enough to say that religions and the fact that people have interpreted religions on the Christian side, on the Muslim side, on all sides, or even on the side of the absence of religion, as has been the case, for example, in China, people are persecuted for having religious beliefs. And as was the case under communism before Russia was broken up into the individual different countries. So it works on all sides. People take religion, and because I want to save you from yourself, I'm going to kill you before I let you continue on whatever way you think is right for you. And how disempowering is that, knowing that when we are created in the likeness and image of the divine, we have been given individual choice. So what are some of the other reasons for wars? Power and control. And oftentimes that has to do with religious preferences. Ideological differences. The grass might be green, but the grass should be blue. That could be a wonderful argument between donkey and the tiger. Economic differences. Many people in many countries have been fought over because of their wealth, be their wealth in natural resources, diamonds, oil, whatever it is, history, the opportunity for tourism. Something that some other bigger, wealthier, more powerful country wants is in a place where they can dominate, and it is done. And that happens in kindergarten playgrounds, folks. This is the idea that some of us have never outgrown. And then, of course, there's human nature and miscommunication. And we do have to fight against that human nature, because that human nature in each of us is secondary to our divine nature. It's made up of the stuff that we have learned in order to protect ourselves. It is made up of the ego shield that has us needing to be right, needing to shine, needing to take up all of the oxygen in the room. But that is not the truth of who we are, because we do not need to do that. That is a natural aspect of our divinity. Now, what we believe, we have a declaration of principles in science of mind. And number 5 says, and Ernest Holmes wrote this in, I believe, 1917 in the Science of Mind magazine. The ultimate goal of life is a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature. And this goal is sure to be attained by all. I'll read it again. The ultimate goal of life is a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature. And this goal is sure to be obtained by all. Yet we don't really pursue that goal. We think, oh, what is happening to the world? We might rise up against someone that's offended us. It happens at Thanksgiving dinners between people of political beliefs. I had someone 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was before 2016, had a typical Thanksgiving gathering with all my best friends and extended family. And one person blew out over the subject. They just did, And the rest of us, we were called just about everything because we did not agree with her. People are willing to do that. And what is Thanksgiving? It's about giving thanks. It's looking for the common denominator. Maybe we take the approach of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. What does that look like? Well, we don't watch the news. I'm not suggesting that we get addicted to the news by any means. In fact, my husband and I support PBS because it's neutral. But I tell people I watch the news so I know what to pray for. Okay. We just can't say, well, that's, it's a spiritual bypass to say, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear. It is not the truth. I mean, for example, in the Middle East, over 40,000 people have died. Israelis, Palestinians, now in Lebanon, more than that combined. We need to know what we pray for, because if we are living in a world of oneness, each and every single person that dies is one of us. It's like a little tiny piece of us has just died. And maybe we're not feeling the pain of it because we're bypassing it, because we're saying, well, thank goodness it isn't here. Well, that's been the case there since ever. Maybe we put our head in the sand. Maybe we're just in denial about it. But the thing is that what happens, and Jesus said, what you do unto the least of mine, you do unto mine. Well, it's not that we're Jesus, is that we're one. We're one in God. And so what happens to anybody is happening to us. And if we're silent about that, when that turns itself against our communities, our families, our loved ones, and we have not spoken out peacefully and respectfully, then we have no right to complain, because we are really no more special. There, but for the grace of God, go I. Every day I'm thankful for where I live, for the trees, for the clean air, that we haven't had any fires, that it's peaceful, that it's safe, that I can just go out my door and go walking in the forest. Esther Hicks, when she in her Abraham talks on gratitude, she says, start with being thankful for your pillow. I'm so thankful for my pillow. I'm so thankful for my bed. There's always something to be thankful for. And so I want to talk a little bit about sacred activism. And this is taken from the Science of Mind platform. For those of you that have not gone to csl.org to see the ways in which you can be involved and to see what we are doing, I invite you to do so. Sacred activism is the intersection where consciousness becomes action, prayer becomes movement, and spiritual principles become practice. It encourages proactive engagement with social and environmental issues to create positive change. And I will repeat that, because change, practice, and engagement is prominent in the statement. It is the intersection where consciousness becomes action, prayer becomes movement, and spiritual principles become practice. It encourages proactive engagement with social environmental issues to create positive change. So what does this mean, folks? It means treat and move your feet peacefully. Peacefully. I don't know where in the greater scheme of things we have, and maybe it started with Jesus saying, turn the other cheek. And I can see that referring to, let's not pick up every little thing that's thrown at us and make it into something. And it certainly means do not strike back. But we got the idea that the other people aren't peaceful, and we are peaceful by doing nothing and praying for them to change. And I don't know that that's been very effective by looking at the state of our world today. I want to give you some examples of people, and this will ring a bell for all of us. If we stop and think about it, we've heard these stories that have been peaceful activists. And they've been individuals just like you and I, who never, ever, ever saw themselves into these roles. Malala Yousafzai, try to say that several times. Remember her when she was a Pakistani girl. She was born in 1997, and she became an activist for girls' education. And this was when she was 11, 12 years old. And the Taliban had just banned girls from attending school in the region in which she lived. Now, her father was a teacher. And at the age of 11 or 12, she just wanted an education. So she started at 11 to write a blog for the BBC under a pseudonym. And in 2012, she was 15. She survived an assassination attempt by the Taliban. They shot her in the head. After her recovery, she continued all of her activities globally. She became the youngest Nobel Prize winner laureate in 2014. So in 2014, let's see, 97, so that she was 17 years old. And she co-founded the Malala Fund to promote girls' education worldwide. And she is still actively doing that. And she is still a Muslim. This is not a Muslim issue. This is a women's issue. It is a human issue. It is an issue about some wanting to keep others from power and knowing that education is power. And one of the things that she said about wars and peace, and I love this, if you want to end the war, then instead of sending guns, send books. Instead of sending tanks, send pens. And instead of sending soldiers, send teachers. What would happen if we did that? In doing a little bit of research for this topic, I read that there was a military unit in Afghanistan, and they were moving on foot in their fatigues, with their guns, with their backpacks, in a community from point A to point B. And the Afghans that lived there came out of their buildings. And they came out of their buildings with stones, with batons, whatever they had. And they started in Arabic, yelling at these people, spitting at these people, trying to hit them, hitting some of them, just expressing their anger at this American group of young men that went there thinking that their work was going to make a difference in the world. And so the sergeant leader told his men to just kneel, put their hands in the prayer position, and look down in the middle of the street. Now, they had weapons. They could have shot those people. They had the ability to defend themselves. They're in full armor. And they did that in silence. And the people stopped yelling at him. They stopped throwing things at him. And they looked at them. And they went back into their houses. What can we do? What is an act of peace that we can take? The next person I'm going to share about is Nelson Mandela. He was imprisoned in 1964, and he was a key anti-apartheid activist, and he was a militant. There are pictures of a young, buff, half-naked Nelson Mandela with boxing gloves. There's another one where he's wearing some kind of African necklace, very, very broad, maybe like the Roman warriors would wear. And he's got a cape that he's wrapped in. And you can look at his eyes and you can see that this was an angry person. He advocated for armed resistance during the apartheid regime. And when he came out of prison, he was a changed man. He was a man of peace after 27 years. There is a book that's written, My Life with Nelson Mandela, about the prison guard that he had, and who was a white man, and how they became friends, and how Mandela changed his life. And so, I'm so sorry, I thought that this was off. So what happened is he came out of prison. It was during a period of time that the president decided that they would work on ending apartheid, the conflict, the riots, the way in which Black people were persecuted had to come to an end. It was seen that that was necessary, and he was released after 27 years. He was intended to spend the rest of his life in prison. And so when he became president, he had an opportunity to bring the tormentors to account. People had shot peaceful protesters. People's businesses were taken away from them. Women were raped. They were rounded up. Every horrible, heinous act of oppression was perpetrated by the whites against the Blacks in South Africa. Now, some of these things have happened in our country. These things happened during Nazi Germany. But unlike what we did after World War II, where the Nazis were sought out, persecuted, brought forth into courts and brought to justice, persecuted for good reason, we are creating justice. They're paying for their horrible, horrible deeds. Nelson Mandela created a tribunal. And in this tribunal, whoever was the perpetrator and their family, they had to come and they had to hear a victim impact statement. And this went on for months and years. Nothing horrible happened to the perpetrators, but many of them cried. They expressed remorse. Some of them didn't, but the victims felt heard. And the reason he did this is he realized that if he was going to bring the whites to account in a way in which we brought the Nazis to account, that the whole thing would flip over on its head and we would have exactly the same situation, but it would be reversed. And would that be peaceful? No. Some people would just feel vindicated. Another example I want to talk to you is about Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was an African-American maid, and she had a hard day one day. And what happened is the Blacks were to sit at the back of the bus, and if there were white people that didn't have a seat, they had to give up their seats to them. This is when we had Black only entrances, Black only water fountains, Black only this or that, the idea of separate but equal. And we know that there is no equal in separate because separate denies the oneness of divinity. And so when I read her story, she had a bad day. She was very tired. It was in Montgomery, Alabama, and it was raining. And she got on the bus and she plopped her butt down in the seat in the front. And when a white man came on and wanted her seat, she refused to give it to him. And I can just picture it. I mean, we've all had days like that where it's like, hell no, not one more thing, you know? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And so she was arrested. There's pictures of her getting booked. But this was a very crucial event because it prompted the bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama, which meant that all of these maids and all of these people that came to take care of the white people's homes and kids weren't coming to work. And this lasted over a year. And it led to a Supreme Court ruling, because obviously it evolved into court, that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. So sometimes when we have a bad day and we want to say, that's ridiculous, I'm not doing that anymore, we need to listen to those thoughts. We need to listen to those thoughts. I have a brief little story. I hope I'm not going too long. We went camping one day and we had had a terrible day prior to going camping in our motorhome. I don't even remember what it was. It was like maybe 25 years ago. We were living in Truckee. There were tears, there were fights, there were arguments, there was this and that, you know, with the kids. And so we finally get to the camp and it's about 4 o'clock. And there's mosquitoes. I get out the door and there's mosquitoes. And if the mosquito is going to bite anybody, it's going to be me. And I had a hell no moment. It's like, I'm not taking this today. I am done. Do you know no mosquito bit me? I have been trying for 25 years to summon up whatever the heck I did when we go camping to keep myself from being molested by mosquitoes or bitten. I know what I did. You could see them, they were so thick, but they didn't bother me. There comes that moment of resilience, of knowingness when we can order the universe around us. Sharing a little bit about Mother Teresa. She said that peace begins with a smile, and small acts of love and kindness can create a ripple effect of peace. She served the neediest, the dirtiest, the most unwanted people. And she went to a United Nations meeting. She was invited there, and she was given a bottle of plastic water, a plastic bottle of water like everybody else. And this was in Europe. And she said, no, this bottle of water costs close to $3. Where I live, I can feed 10 people for $3. Give me water in the regular cup. Small acts of being in integrity. Another unlikely candidate for becoming a hero would have been Moses. I don't know how many of you know that Moses was a stutterer and he was slow of speech. And so when God called upon him to go talk to Pharaoh, he said, I can't do that. I stutter. I'm slow of speech. Pharaoh would never listen to me. So God said, okay, well, take your brother Aaron, go with Aaron, tell Aaron what to tell Pharaoh, and then you'll be fully empowered to do the acts yourself. And that's what happened to Moses. He was able to do all of those works where he was otherwise unable. There's always a way, folks, is what I'm saying. Last but not least is Greta Thunberg. Now, this young lady is an activist for the environment. And when she was 15 years old, so her parents sent her to school. Everything's fine. She's a good kid. What does she do? She ditches school and she goes and she takes her friends and they start to protest in front of the parliament for environmental issues. And the parents didn't even know that she wasn't in school. So you see, these are normal people, tiny people. Mother Teresa, I believe she was like 4'7". People that are unlikely heroes, people that had inner changes, that didn't go about being spiritual activists in a way that did anyone harm, but they took those steps. So what I want to invite you to do is to cultivate, first of all, inner peace. We had a little example of that, getting images of what it looks like. Draw those things out. Describe those things in your journaling. Make it real to you. Pray. Join a prayer group. When you go to csl.org, you'll see that there's all different opportunities for prayer groups that we have. Put yourself on mailing lists at different centers and join prayer groups. It makes a difference. Join a Centers for Spiritual Living committee. We have World Prayer. We have peace committees. We have diversity and inclusion committees. I'm part of the Global Outreach Committee. And the Global Outreach Committee, we have people from Kenya and from Nigeria and somebody that is French but is living in Switzerland. We have people from Mexico. We have me that goes back and forth to Mexico and was born in Romania. We have someone that is that wants to start a ministry in Africa. And she's one of my fellow ministerial students. She's finishing the spring. It's a very, very well integrated group that brings about a global vision. And I encourage you to speak loudly and to speak with respect. Take a step and do something. One of the things that I want to close with is a statement that came from Oprah Winfrey. And she said, do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. Treat and move your feet. Get involved. And even if it's just mental activism, even if it's just speaking a word for peace, when someone is saying something unkind in the group, be that. Do not be the silent endorser. So this brings me to the end. And I would like to know if somebody would like to do our final prayer or benediction. And maybe Catherine, you want to do it, or I'm happy to do it. I don't know what the practice is in your organization. And then we can have a talk about how we're going to be more involved and be the change we want to see in the world.
Thank you very much, Rev Alexandra. Let me, yeah, let me have you do the prayer, and then I'll stop the recording, and then we can talk. Before I do, let's see, let's get the prayer on the recording, and then I'll stop the recording. Okay. Before I do stop, though, and before the prayer, I do want to say that we believe in giving, that one gives where one receives spiritual nourishment and inspiration. So if you found a value in the message, if you want to contribute to our work or feel moved to make a donation of any size, please make a love offering at cslboulder.org/donate. I'm going to stop the recording and we can begin our discussion after the prayer. If you're watching this recording, you want to be part of the conversation next time, you can find the Zoom link on our website, cslbouldervalley.org. We meet online via Zoom the first, third, and fifth Sundays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So, Alex, Rev, would you please say the prayer?
I would be happy to. So we just breathe in, breathe out, and we feel peacefully energized. We feel awake. We feel the knowingness that we are the presence of the presence. And from this place, we acknowledge that there is one power, one universal intelligence, one divinity, one mind. And it is that which I call God. And it is all there is. Each and every single life form is an individuation. It is a point of light in the tapestry of the divine. Human, animal, even the mountains, the lakes, every molecule, every atom is a point of light of the divine. And it would no more go into conflict with itself and destroy itself than it would elect an autoimmune disease. We know that war and conflict is that. It is the autoimmune disease of humankind. And this ease is a disease, and we deny that because we know that in God there is only health, there is only goodness, there is only beneficence, there is only peace. There is only peace. Out of this peace grows new creative abilities, new images, new opportunities, new good. We create out of this peace a world that works for all. We cannot create a world that works for all when we are in conflict with each other. And so recognizing our divinity, recognizing the divinity in each and every single person here, I just give great thanks for the truth of knowing that we are a stand for peace, that we are a bright light, that we are that extension of the divine in this world, called to be the difference that we want to see in the world. And I just give great thanks for the awakening of this idea in each and every single one of us here, and those that will hear this talk later, or that will simply find another venue to connect with this universal idea that is not just us here right now. It is the divine idea in the mind of God. And knowing that a divine idea in the mind of God is the truth of realization, and it comes to be no matter what. I now release my word gratefully, into that divine soil of mine where it already is. And we affirm together that so it is. Let there be peace on earth.
Mm.
Amen.
And so it is. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording and we can talk a little bit.